My friend, I want you to hear me today, not just with your ears, but with your heart. You have been carrying burdens that no one sees, whispering prayers that feel unanswered, and wondering if God still remembers you. I know the weight of waiting. I know the pain of silence. But let me tell you something. Your waiting is not in vain. Your suffering is not ignored. And your prayers, oh, they are not forgotten. Because right now, at this very moment, heaven is moving on your behalf. The Lord, in all His power and mercy, is preparing a blessing so great, so divine, that it will shake the very foundation of your life. You may not see it yet, but God is already at work. And when He moves, no force in this world can stand against His will. The Bible tells us, no eye has seen, no ear has heard, no human mind has conceived the things God has prepared for those who love Him. That means your breakthrough, your healing, your restoration, it's coming. And today I want to share with you 5 things that God is about to bless you with. Not because of who you are, but because of who He is. Not because of your strength, but because of His love. Listen closely, because this is for you. Now lean in and listen closely. Here's what God is about to pour into your life. I want you to hear this deep in your spirit. Mark my words. These blessings are on their way. Get ready, because this is what's coming. You've felt weary, not just in your body, but in your soul. There are days when you wake up and wonder how you will make it through another day. The weight of life has pressed down on you so hard that it feels like you can barely breathe. You've prayed, you've cried, you've begged for relief, and yet it seems like the struggle never ends. There have been nights when you've laid awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if God even hears you. And deep inside there's been a battle, one that no one else sees, one that makes you feel like you're hanging on by a thread. But let me tell you something, God sees you. He sees the silent battles, the hidden tears, the moments when you put on a strong face for the world while inside you feel like you're falling apart. He knows the nights you've wrestled with doubt, the days you've questioned whether you have what it takes to keep going. He has seen you at your weakest, and yet He has never turned away. In fact, it is in these moments, these breaking, crushing, desperate moments, that He is preparing to do something miraculous in your life. You see, God never promised that life would be easy. He never said you wouldn't face struggles, pain, or moments of exhaustion. But what He did promise is that He would never leave you. And right now, in the very place where you feel the weakest, He is about to pour out a strength that is not your own. This is not just human determination, not just willpower. This is the supernatural strength that only God can give. There have been times when you've tried to push forward on your own, when you've thought that if you just worked harder, if you just kept going, everything would be okay. But the truth is, no amount of striving can replace what only God can do. You weren't meant to carry this weight alone. You weren't created to bear the burdens of life by yourself. That's why He tells us, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." You see, this strength isn't just about making it through another day. It's about transformation. It's about God stepping into the very places where you feel broken and filling you with something greater than you ever imagined. He is about to take your weakness and turn it into testimony. The very thing that made you feel like you couldn't go on is about to become the reason you walk in victory. Think about the moments in your life when you thought you wouldn't make it. The times when you were sure you had nothing left to give, but somehow you kept going. Somehow you found the strength to rise again. That wasn't you. That was God working in you, even when you didn't see it. And if He did it before, He will do it again. God is about to give you a strength that doesn't run out, a strength that doesn't rely on circumstances or feelings. It won't be based on whether things are going your way or whether life is easy. This will be a strength that comes straight from heaven, a strength that will carry you through the darkest storms and lift you higher than you ever thought possible. Imagine a time in your life when you felt utterly spent, when you had given everything you had and still it wasn't enough. Maybe it was a job that drained you, a relationship that left you empty, or a battle within yourself that made you feel like you were losing. But now God is stepping in. He is taking what's left of you, your exhaustion, your weakness, your brokenness, and He is filling you with something unshakable. This isn't the kind of strength that the world understands. The world tells you to be strong by pretending you have it all together. The world says strength means never showing weakness. But God says, "My grace is sufficient for you, For my power is made perfect in weakness. That means that right now, where you feel the weakest is the very place where His power is about to shine the brightest. Maybe you've been asking God for an answer, for a breakthrough, for relief from the battle you've been facing. And maybe, just maybe, His answer isn't to take the struggle away, but to give you the strength to walk through it. Because when God strengthens you, you don't just survive, you overcome. You don't just make it through, you come out victorious. There is a purpose in this season. It may not make sense now, but one day you will look back and see that this was the moment when God was molding you, shaping you, preparing you for something greater. This struggle isn't your ending, it's the beginning of something new. The strength He is about to give you isn't just for today. It's for the journey ahead, for the calling He has placed on your life, for the testimony you will one day share. So don't be discouraged. Don't let the enemy convince you that you're too weak, too tired, too broken to keep going. Because what the enemy sees as your downfall, God sees as the place where His power will be revealed. What feels like an end is actually the beginning of a new level of faith, a new level of trust, a new level of strength that you never knew you had. Think of David standing before Goliath. He wasn't the strongest, he wasn't the biggest, and by the world's standards he should have lost. But he wasn't relying on his own strength, he was relying on God's. And with just a single stone, with just a simple act of faith, he defeated the giant that stood before him. That same God is with you now. That same strength that carried David into battle, that strengthened Moses when he faced the Red Sea, that empowered Paul when he endured trials beyond what seemed humanly possible, that same strength is being poured into your life at this very moment. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to be the strongest person in the room. You just have to be willing to let God move. You just have to trust that what He has for you is greater than what you could ever do on your own. Maybe life has knocked you down more times than you can count. Maybe you've been hurt, betrayed, abandoned, left wondering if you'll ever truly feel whole again. But God is saying to you today, I am your strength. I am your refuge. I am the one who lifts you up when you feel like you can't take another step. And when God strengthens you, nothing can break you. The storms may come, the trials may rise, but you will stand firm, because the strength that God is about to pour into your life is greater than anything this world can throw at you. It is not just the strength to endure, it is the strength to overcome. It is not just the power to survive, it is the power to walk in victory. So, lift your head, wipe your tears, because what you thought would break you is about to be the very thing that reveals God's power in your life like never before. You've knocked on doors, prayed for opportunities, and waited for a breakthrough that seems just out of reach. You've felt the sting of rejection, the pain of closed doors, and the frustration of trying so hard only to see no results. You've watched as others received their blessings, as doors swung open for them, while you remained in the waiting season, wondering when it would be your turn. And in those quiet moments, you've questioned if God had forgotten you. You've asked if you were meant to struggle forever, if maybe you weren't worthy of the blessings you've been praying for. But let me tell you something today. God has not forgotten you. He has not overlooked you, and He has not abandoned you in your waiting. He is preparing something for you that no man can take away. The doors that He is about to open in your life will not be shut by rejection, by delay, or by the opinions of others. These are doors that only He can open. And when they swing wide, no force in this world will be able to close them. I know how it feels to give your best and still feel like you're standing on the outside looking in. Maybe it's a job you've been pursuing, a dream you've been chasing, or a calling that has burned in your heart for years. But no matter how hard you try, it seems like every door you knock on remains locked. The enemy has whispered lies in your ear, telling you that you're not good enough, that you'll never make it, that your time has passed. But let me remind you, God's timing is perfect. His plan is never late. And when He opens a door, it will be in a way that no one can deny His hand was in it. You don't need the approval of men. You don't need to fight for recognition or force your way into a place that God has not prepared for you. Because when the right door opens, you won't have to beg to get in. You won't have to manipulate your way through. You won't have to struggle to keep it open. The opportunities that God is bringing your way will be undeniable. They will be blessings that no one can take credit for except Him. Think about Joseph, the dreamer, the one who had a vision from God but found himself sold into slavery, wrongfully accused and thrown into prison. For years, it seemed like every door was closing in his life. Every opportunity to step into his purpose was taken from him. But what Joseph couldn't see was that God was working behind the scenes, positioning him for something greater than he ever imagined. When the time was right, in a single moment, the prison doors opened and Joseph was elevated to a position of power in Egypt. He didn't have to force his way in. He didn't have to convince people to give him a chance. God orchestrated the entire thing, and the same God who opened doors for Joseph is the same God who is about to open doors for you. You may be in a season where it feels like nothing is happening. You may feel like you're stuck, like you've been in the same place for too long. But what if I told you that your waiting is not wasted? What if I told you that God is using this time to prepare you for what's ahead? Because when the doors open, you won't have time to get ready. You'll need to be ready. That's why he has allowed certain doors to remain closed. That's why he didn't let you settle for less than his best. Because what he has for you is greater than anything you could have forced on your own. You weren't meant for just any opportunity. You were meant for divine purpose. And the doors that are about to open in your life are not ordinary doors. They are doors of destiny, doors of impact, doors that will lead you into the fulfillment of everything he has planned for you. Maybe you've been praying for a breakthrough, but every time you think you're close, something stops you. Maybe you've seen others get opportunities that you felt were meant for you. Maybe you've been faithful, doing the right things, sowing seeds of obedience, and yet you feel like you're standing in the hallway waiting for something to open. But hear me, when it is your time, nothing will stop what God has set in motion. You won't have to knock on 100 doors hoping one will open. You won't have to keep searching for validation or chasing opportunities that weren't meant for you. Because when God moves, he moves in ways that man cannot explain. He will put you in rooms you never imagined being in. He will place you in positions that no resume could qualify you for. He will elevate you in such a way that people will look at you and know that only God could have done it. The delay has not been a denial. The waiting has not been a punishment. God has been aligning things in the background, moving pieces into place, so that when the door opens, it will be at the right time, in the right way, for the right purpose. Because when he opens a door, no man can shut it. That means no past mistake, no failure, no rejection can stop what he is about to do. It doesn't matter who has told you no. It doesn't matter how many times you've been overlooked. It doesn't matter how many times you've felt like giving up. What matters is that God has the final say. And when he says yes, no one can say no. Think about the times in your life when you thought you had lost an opportunity, only to look back and realize that God had something better in store. Maybe you didn't get the job, but later he opened a door to something far greater. Maybe a relationship ended, but later he brought someone into your life who was a perfect fit for your journey. Maybe you felt like you had missed your chance, but in reality, he was preparing something you never saw coming. Because the doors that he is about to open will not just be for your benefit, they will be for his glory. They will be a testimony to his faithfulness, to his perfect timing, to his ability to take what looked like rejection and turn it into redirection. What seemed like a setback will be revealed as a setup. What looked like a failure will be seen as a step forward into something better. And when the doors open, you will know it was God. You won't have to question it. You won't have to wonder if it was your doing or his. Because the way he moves, the way he shifts things, the way he turns situations around, it will be so undeniable that everyone around you will see his hand at work. So don't give up. Don't let the enemy convince you that you've missed your chance. Don't believe the lie that you are stuck where you are. Because what is coming is bigger than you imagined. The doors that he is about to open will lead you into a season of favor, into a place of purpose, into a future that is beyond anything you could have asked for. What he has for you is greater than what you've lost. What he is preparing is beyond what you've prayed for. And when the doors open, they will not just be opportunities. They will be divine appointments set in motion by the hand of God himself. You've carried pain that no one sees. You've smiled when your heart was breaking. You've walked through seasons of suffering, feeling like no one truly understands the depth of what you're going through. There are wounds you've hidden, scars that remain from battles you thought you had already overcome. Some days you wake up and feel the weight of everything pressing down on you, and you wonder if you'll ever feel whole again. You wonder if the pain will ever stop, if the emptiness will ever be filled, if the pieces of your heart will ever be put back together. You've learned how to function in brokenness, how to keep moving even when everything inside of you is crying out for rest. You've learned how to be strong for everyone else. to carry responsibilities, to show up when you don't feel like it, to give even when you have nothing left. And somewhere along the way, you started believing that healing was for everyone else but you, that somehow you were meant to live with this pain, to carry this burden for the rest of your life. But let me tell you something today. God sees what you've been through. He knows the nights you've cried yourself to sleep, the moments when you felt like you couldn't take another step. He knows the pain you don't talk about, the disappointments that have left you numb, the heartbreak that you've tried to bury deep inside. And He is not finished with you. He is not going to leave you in this place, because healing is coming, restoration is coming, a new beginning is on its way. The wounds that have defined you for so long are not permanent. The things that have broken you are not the end of your story. God is about to step into the very places where you've been hurting, the very spaces where you felt forgotten, and He is going to do what only He can do. He is going to bring healing, not just a temporary relief, not just a momentary comfort, but a deep, lasting, life-changing healing that reaches to the very core of who you are. Maybe you've been praying for healing, but you feel like nothing is happening. Maybe you've been asking God to take the pain away, but you still wake up with the same ache in your soul. Maybe you've convinced yourself that healing is impossible, that you've been broken for too long, that your heart is too shattered to be made whole again. But God is not limited by time. He is not bound by what the world says is possible. And when He decides to heal, no force in this world can stop Him. Healing doesn't always come the way we expected. Sometimes we want instant relief, an immediate change, a sudden transformation. But God's healing runs deeper than that. He doesn't just cover the wound. He restores what was lost. He doesn't just numb the pain. He removes the root of it. He doesn't just patch up the broken pieces. He makes all things new. Think about the woman who had been suffering for 12 years. She had tried everything, spent everything she had, searched for answers everywhere, but nothing worked. She had lived in pain for so long that she had probably accepted it as her reality. But then, one encounter with Jesus changed everything. One moment of faith, one touch of His garment, and her healing was complete. That same power is still at work today. That same healing is still available for you. And the same God who restored her is the same God who is about to restore you. It doesn't matter how long you've been hurting. It doesn't matter how deep the wounds are. It doesn't matter how impossible it seems. Healing is coming. Maybe your wounds aren't physical. Maybe they're emotional, spiritual, wounds that no one else can see. Maybe you've been carrying shame, regret, guilt that has held you hostage for years. Maybe you've been through betrayal, loss, rejection that has left you afraid to trust again, afraid to hope again, afraid to believe that things can change. But God is stepping into those places, the hidden wounds, the unspoken pain. And He is bringing healing that reaches beyond what anyone else can see. There is no hurt too deep for God to heal, no mistake too great for Him to redeem, no past too broken for Him to restore. And right now, in this very moment, He is moving on your behalf. He is breaking chains, lifting burdens, and healing wounds that you thought would never close. The process may not always be easy. Sometimes healing requires surrender, a willingness to let go of what has been holding you back. Sometimes it means releasing bitterness, forgiving those who have hurt you, laying down the burdens that you've carried for far too long. But when you place your pain in God's hands, when you allow Him to do what only He can do, He turns it into something beautiful. The enemy wants you to believe that you will always be broken, that you will always be defined by your past, that you will never truly heal from what you've been through. But the enemy is a liar, because God's Word says that He is close to the brokenhearted, that He binds up their wounds, that He gives beauty for ashes, joy for mourning, a garment of praise for a spirit of heaviness. The things that have tried to destroy you, the things that have stolen your joy, the things that have made you feel like you are beyond repair, God is turning them around. He is taking what the enemy meant for harm and using it for good. He is rewriting your story. He is restoring your heart. He is giving you a future that is filled with hope, filled with peace, filled with the kind of joy that cannot be shaken. Healing isn't just about removing pain. It's about stepping into the fullness of what God has for you. It's about walking in freedom, living without fear, moving forward without the weight of the past holding you back. It's about stepping into a new season where you are no longer defined by what happened to you, but by what God is doing in you. There are places in your life where you have settled for brokenness, where you have accepted pain as your normal. But God is saying, no more. No more living in fear. No more carrying wounds that I have already paid the price to heal. No more believing that you are too far gone, too damaged, too unworthy to receive my restoration. Because when God heals, He heals completely. He doesn't leave scars as reminders of your pain. He leaves testimonies as proof of His power. He doesn't just mend what was broken. He restores what was lost. And the healing that is coming will not only change your life, it will be a testimony to everyone around you. You've been waiting for this. You've been praying for this. And now, the season of healing is here. The season of restoration is here. The season of walking in wholeness, in freedom, in joy like you've never known before. It's here. Because God is moving, and when He moves, nothing remains the same. You've been fighting battles that no one sees. You've faced storms that felt like they would never end. You've stood in the middle of chaos, holding on with everything you have, wondering if you have the strength to keep going. There have been moments when you felt like the weight of life was too much to bear. Moments when you felt completely drained, like you had nothing left to give. But let me tell you something today. Your strength is about to be renewed. God is about to pour into you in a way that will restore everything you've lost. You've tried to push through, to keep going, even when you felt weak, but deep down you've been running on empty. You've been pouring out for others, carrying burdens, showing up for people, trying to do the right thing, but inside you've felt exhausted. The battles you've faced have drained you. The struggles you've endured have worn you down. You've been waiting for relief, for rest, for a moment where you don't have to fight so hard just to get through the day. And now God is stepping in to strengthen you in a way that only He can. This isn't just about physical strength. This is about the kind of strength that keeps you standing when life tries to knock you down. The kind of strength that allows you to keep believing when everything around you tells you to give up. The kind of strength that carries you through seasons of difficulty without losing your faith, without losing your hope, without losing the fire inside of you. Maybe you've been feeling weary, like you've been pushing against something that refuses to move. Maybe you've been praying for change, but all you've seen is delay. Maybe you've been asking God for strength, but instead of feeling stronger, you felt weaker. But let me remind you that sometimes it is in our weakness that God moves the most. It is when we come to the end of ourselves, when we reach the point where we have nothing left, that His power is made perfect in us. Think about David. Before he ever became a king, before he ever stepped into the promise that God had for him, he had to endure battles that tested him, challenges that should have broken him. He fought lions and bears in the wilderness. He stood before Goliath with nothing but a sling and a few stones. He spent years running from Saul, hiding in caves, wondering if he would ever see the promise fulfilled. And through it all, God was strengthening him. David wasn't strong because of his own power. He wasn't victorious because of his own ability. His strength came from God. Every battle he faced, every struggle he endured was preparing him for something greater. And the same is true for you. The battles you fought, the struggles you faced, they haven't been for nothing. They've been strengthening you for what's ahead. Maybe you've been wondering why the fight has been so hard, why the battles have been so relentless, why it feels like every time you take a step forward, something tries to pull you back. But let me tell you, the enemy wouldn't be fighting you this hard if there wasn't something powerful inside of you. He wouldn't be attacking you like this if there wasn't something on the other side of this battle that he desperately wants to stop you from reaching. But you are stronger than you think. You have more inside of you than you realize. And the strength that is coming is not something you have to fight for. It's something God is about to pour into you. He is about to breathe new life into you. He is about to fill you with a strength that doesn't come from your own efforts, but from His power working within you. This isn't just about getting through the day. This is about stepping into a season where you no longer feel drained, no longer feel exhausted, no longer feel like you're barely holding on. This is about stepping into a strength that allows you to rise up with confidence, with boldness, with the assurance that no matter what comes your way, you will not be shaken. Because the strength that God gives is not temporary. It doesn't fade when life gets hard. It doesn't disappear when the enemy attacks. It is a strength that remains, a strength that carries you, a strength that allows you to walk through fire and not be burned, to face giants and not be afraid, to stand firm when everything around you is trying to break you. You've been holding on, waiting for a breakthrough, waiting for a moment where you can breathe again. And now God is saying, I am your strength. You don't have to carry this on your own. You don't have to fight this battle alone. You don't have to rely on your own ability, your own endurance, your own power. Because when you lean on Him, when you trust in His strength instead of your own, He will carry you in ways you never imagined. The exhaustion you've been feeling, the weariness that has settled into your soul, it is not permanent. God is about to lift you up. He is about to refresh your spirit. He is about to give you the kind of strength that allows you to keep going, not just for a moment, not just for a season, but for the journey ahead. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are not at the end of your story. You are about to walk into a season of renewed strength, of divine energy, of supernatural endurance. And what's coming is not just enough to help you survive, it's enough to help you thrive. Because God doesn't just give us strength to get by. He gives us strength to conquer, to overcome, to walk in the fullness of everything He has called us to be. The battles you've faced have not been for nothing. The struggles you've endured have not been wasted. They have been shaping you, refining you, making you into the person God created you to be. And now, He is pouring into you in a way that will restore everything the enemy tried to take. This is not the end of your story. This is not where you give up. This is not where you let exhaustion win, because strength is coming. The power of God is about to move in your life in a way that will leave no doubt that He is with you, that He is for you, that He has been holding you all along. And when you rise up from this, when you walk into this new season, you will walk with a strength that nothing in this world can shake. You have been walking through seasons of waiting, feeling like time is passing but nothing is changing. You have prayed prayers that seem to go unanswered, held on to promises that feel like they are slipping through your fingers, and wondered if what you are believing for will ever come to pass. You have watched others step into their blessings, seen doors open for people around you, and deep inside you have asked yourself, when will it be my turn? You have tried to stay faithful, tried to trust, tried to hold on, but the waiting has become heavy and you are tired. You have done everything you know to do. You have prayed, fasted, believed, declared, and still it feels like nothing is happening. It feels like every step forward is met with resistance. Like every time you start to hope again, something comes to discourage you. You have wrestled with doubt, fought against fear, and battled the thought that maybe you misunderstood, maybe the promise wasn't really for you, maybe God has forgotten about you. But God does not forget. He does not ignore the cries of His children. He does not overlook the ones who have been waiting on Him. What you are waiting for is not being denied, it is being prepared. The reason it has not happened yet is not because God has abandoned you, but because He is aligning things in ways you cannot see.